Hi, this is Adam,
I'm Dave.
and you're listening to Fiction.
Or nonfiction. Fiction or nonfiction.
So, this is the show where we examine viral news stories, popular news articles, and we just determine whether they happen to be true or false. If they happen to be fiction.
Or nonfiction.
Dave, you're back.
Hi. I'm here.
Yeah, you're here. How was being abducted?
I was not abducted.
Really? Why were you missing from the last one?
You recorded it without telling me.
Oh, well, I guess that will happen sometimes.
Ouch. Thanks, friend.
You know what? It's a shame because we talked about some interesting stuff. Aliens. We talked about aliens last time.
I'll have to listen.
You'll have to listen. In
when
fact,
when does it come out?
it comes out insert date.
Okay.
But yes, of course, if you want to go through our previous episodes, go to Spotify. You can check us out there. And also on our YouTube page for Windsor Public Library. Lots of information. So, Dave, today we have something very interesting. A somewhat viral story / belief that is heavily scrutinized, but I did want to give an opportunity to actually examine on the show, just to talk about how legitimate that this could be, or illegitimate it could be.
Okay.
We're going to talk about flat Earth theory.
Oh. Hold on. I gotta make sure I don't fall off here.
Okay, maybe we'll just give some context for listeners.
Okay.
What's flat Earth theory?
People still think the Earth is flat, not round.
Mm-hmm. So basically, people think that the Earth is a flat pane rather than a globe. This has really increased in popularity over the last few years, especially on social media. There's been plenty of flat Earth theorists who have been forming organizations, but also just individually, who publish their beliefs using web forums, YouTube videos, all sorts of different means. And yeah, they argue that the Earth is flat.
Yes, this is a thing that people do for some reason.
We are going to give this the benefit of the doubt. I think what's good in these instances is to actually examine the evidence. And what we do on the show is we talk about getting reputable sources, actually fact-checking and getting information authentically, just not going off of our own biases or beliefs. But just to start off with, Dave, what do you believe?
The Earth is not flat.
Okay.
It is round. If you walk to the edge of a certain place, you're not going to fall off the planet. Just not going to happen.
Well, maybe off the edge of a building.
I didn't say that.
No, he did not. Okay, so yeah, flat Earth theory. Like, I don't think we need to describe too much why we don't believe the Earth is flat.
Well, we can go back to the origin as to why initially people thought it was flat.
We could. In fact, the beliefs in a flat Earth, they go back quite a while. They go back to antiquity. But modern flat Earth groups, they date pretty much to the mid-20th century, so around the 1940s and 1950s.
No, I mean, when was... people originally thought the Earth was flat, not round.
Now this is interesting. We're going to talk about the history of this. Now, modern flat earthers, they often perpetuate the idea that for the longest time, people assumed the Earth is flat.
Right.
But actually, the world has pretty much known the world is a globe for a long time.
Especially with those space photographs.
Those space photographs. So, okay, Dave, the popular belief that proponents of the flat Earth theory have is that, for the longest time, people have believed the Earth is flat, and it's only been within the last few hundred years that people have changed their minds and argue that the world is a globe. How long ago do you think the first person came about saying that the world was not flat, that it was a globe?
I want to say in the early 1900s.
A little bit further back than that.
Okay, but probably early 1800s.
Even further back.
Oh, 16.
Further.
Okay, just tell me.
Okay, so the Earth's spherical shape has been widely accepted in the Western world since at least the Hellenistic period, which is approximately 323 BCE to 31 BCE. So before the modern era. Ancient scientists and astronomers were able to reach the conclusion that the Earth is round based off of a number of observations, such as noting that the stars in the sky are not the same in the northern and southern hemispheres. That wouldn't make sense if the Earth was a flat plane, because then it would just be unified overhead. Also, the fact that the Earth's shadow appears curved on the moon's surface during lunar eclipses.
Okay, yeah.
In fact, ancient Greeks were even able to figure out an approximate calculation of the circumference of the Earth using no fancier tools than a stick and the light of the sun. So basically, by measuring the angle of a shadow cast by the sun at the same time of day in two cities a known distance apart, there was a philosopher, Eratosthenes, and he was able to calculate that the planet's circumference was actually, he was pretty close to the actual figure. I think he was only a few hundred meters off. And the fact that the angle of the sun differs on different parts of the planet indicates itself, just inherently, that the Earth is a globe. So even the ancients were able to figure this out. With that said, we're going to talk about the history of this, but why do you think people believe the Earth is flat?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I need to emphasize, I'm saying people believe the Earth is flat as if it's a huge number. It really isn't. There's not as many genuine believers in flat Earth theory as a lot of people like to perpetuate that there are, but there certainly are a growing number of these individuals. But if you just had to guess, why do you think people are increasingly following this belief system, Dave?
Maybe more rumors are being spread online, message boards, people aren't using proper fact-checking resources. They're just believing what someone on a message board is saying. For all we know, that person didn't even complete high school.
This actually ties into the origin of modern beliefs in a flat Earth. So modern flat Earth theory actually originated around the 19th century with an English writer. His name was Samuel Robotham. He was a non-academic, and he dropped out of school at the age of 9.
Okay.
Go figure. But with that said, Robotham published a 1949 pamphlet titled Zetetic Astronomy, later expanding this into a book called, and this is very on the nose, Earth, Not a Globe.
Wow. What a clever title.
Very clever. So in the text, he proposed that the Earth is a flat disk centered at the North Pole and bounded along its southern edge by a wall of ice, which he claimed was Antarctica. Basically, he visioned Earth as like the top side of a pog.
Wow. Okay. People don't know what pogs are.
Oh yeah, we should explain that. That's a dated reference. A round disk. So now Robotham, as much as he was by academic standards uneducated, he did produce studies in these books that he purported showed the visual effects of ships disappearing past the horizon were actually due to laws of perspective and not actually evidence that the Earth was round. Some people have tried to recreate these experiments unsuccessfully, but at least he's offering something. So we have this guy, he's going around. He doesn't have an education past being 9 years old. He's issuing forth these theories of the Earth being a disk. Why do you think people believed him? Because he did garner some supports in his lifetime.
Maybe because he had a book?
Well, I mean, he did have a book. That is true.
It was before internet trolling, so I don't know.
So what do you think drives people to believe someone? Is it because of the authenticity of their information, or is it something else?
It's not necessarily that at all. I think it's just something like maybe something that's going on with them at that time, or their background, or something in their life that's causing them to gravitate towards these things, which happens with a lot of conspiracy-related things too.
No, absolutely. And I think, Dave, one of the big things to keep in mind is the fact that oftentimes it's not who has the best information who's believed, but who is the most charismatic. And most people who have written reports about seeing Robotham actually perform lectures would talk about how captivating of a speaker he was.
Okay, so maybe he was a good public speaker.
And I think that's what it was. Like, I think he used rhetorical devices rather than factual evidence to sway people. But he managed to sway quite a few people in his belief circle, including some really well-to-do individuals who funded the Zetetic organization, which was, again, this kind of precursor to the Flat Earth organization, just spreading the word that the Earth is flat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Robotham, he also published a leaflet. It was titled The Inconsistency of Modern Astronomy and Its Opposition to the Scriptures.
That's wordy.
It's very wordy. He loves a long title. In this book, he argued, and I quote, "The Bible, alongside our senses, supported the idea that the earth was flat and immovable, and this essential truth should not be set aside for a system based solely on human conjecture," end quote.
It doesn't say that at all in the Bible.
Well, no, it doesn't. And this is the thing. Like, there have been proponents arguing that there is evidence in the Bible of a flat earth. It does not. I actually went through a number of different sources from both secular and non-secular scholars, and they have all concluded, just from a textual standpoint, the Bible does not provide a cosmological model. It does not actually say the makeup of the earth. So therefore, when people are claiming this, they're making a false claim. The Bible does not state that the earth is flat in any instance. The most it states is a reference to the four corners of the earth, but that is also a translation, possibly, of phrases and idioms that were used to describe the directions of the wind. So there's no actual concrete instance of the Bible saying the earth is flat. Mm-hmm. So that's also a myth. Robotham did gain attention using his rhetorical tactics, as I said, and he formed this Zetetic Society in England and New York, where he shipped thousands of copies of his books. I did mention he got some pretty big-name followers. One of them was Lady Elizabeth Blount.
Who's that?
Well, she was a very well-to-do lady. She established the Universal Zetetic Society in 1893, and her objective was to propagate knowledge related to, and I quote, "a natural cosmogony in confirmation of the Holy Scriptures based on practical scientific investigation," end quote. They even published a magazine simply titled "The Earth is Not a Globe Review."
Wow, these clever titles.
I know. Well, eventually interest in this waned, and by 1956 in Dover, England, there was a resident named Samuel Shenton. He created what is the precursor of the Flat Earth Society, the International Flat Earth Research Society. This was basically a successor of the Universal Zetetic Society, which ended a little bit going on into the early 20th century. Now, this was launched just before the Soviet Union had launched Sputnik into the solar system. Mm-hmm. And that was the first artificial satellite, of course, that was launched into space. So that discredited a bit of this organization and Shenton himself for his viewpoints. And he himself, his strategy was pretty icky. He wanted to basically target children before they could be convinced about a spherical Earth and show them the way of the fact that there was actually a flat Earth. And even though he got plenty of publicity, as I said, the space race and the launching of Sputnik into orbit basically eroded Shenton's public support in Britain. But he did become famous for something that happened in 1967. What do you think may have happened?
He got flattened by a bulldozer.
Well, I mean, it would be his ideal, right, to be flat as well. No. What do you think happened in 1967? Something kind of big relating to space.
The moon landing?
Well, yeah. There was the Apollo missions.
Yeah.
The Apollo space program. So basically, at this point, satellite images for the first time were able to show Earth as a sphere. Now, Shenton was asked kind of blithely at one point his thoughts on this, and he remarked, and I quote, "It's easy to see how a photograph like that could fool the untrained eye," end quote.
He later, when he was asked about similar photographs taken by astronauts, he attributed the curvature of the globe to a wide-angle lens and added, "It's a deception of the public, and it isn't right."
That's very weird.
He's just saying, no, you can't believe it. He doesn't give reasons why you can't. He's just saying you can't, basically because it contradicts his own belief system.
Mm-hmm.
So after these comments, though, Shenton wasn't long for this world. He did die in 1971, and a correspondent of his from California named Charles Johnson became the president of the International Flat Earth Research Society of America. Johnson reported membership of the group rose under his leadership to a reported 3,500 members. And he also issued many publications and handled all membership applications during this time. Likewise, along with some of the precursors we talked about, he cited the Bible for his beliefs, claiming that scientists were pulling a hoax in order to replace religion with science.
No,
absolutely not. That's what he was claiming, though.
Okay, whatever.
So anyway, under his direction, as he claimed, the membership of this society did increase, and one of the things he argued, which was very interesting, was the model of the flat Earth itself. He produced a planetary model that depicted the Earth as a disk with the North Pole at its center and a wall of ice surrounding it, which would be our Antarctica. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it's what's his name said.
Yeah, it was like what Robotham said decades beforehand. Now, this is interesting, though, because Johnson claimed the resulting map resembles the symbol of the United Nations. Because you know the symbol of the United Nations. Yeah. He says that this was evidence for his position, that they somehow secretly knew this was the case, and that's why they made it their insignia.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, because if this was something they were trying to withhold and, just basically suppress this information publicly, why would they make it their symbol?
Why would they make their symbol? And also, you would see it in the space photographs.
Exactly. And even then, he says it resembles, it did not fully capture the likeness of the model that he created for the shape of this flat Earth that he envisioned. So, that's very weak evidence. We'll just put it that way. Now, as I said, membership was on a rise, but it declined in 1997 after a fire in Johnson's house, which destroyed all the records and contacts of the society's members. Not only do we have to scrutinize his claims and his beliefs, but we don't even know he actually had that many followers.
Because the evidence is gone.
Exactly. He did die in 2001, and at that point, the Flat Earth Society basically disbanded and was no more. Mm-hmm. Things changed, though, with the internet, because we did talk about how easy it is to perpetuate beliefs online. Like, we see stuff that goes online all the time that has no real backing in fact, but people just love putting their beliefs on there.
It's true.
So there was someone else, Daniel Shenton, which is funny that his last name is Shenton. He is no relation to Samuel Shenton, who we mentioned earlier. But in 2004, this individual resurrected the Flat Earth Society as a discussion forum online. Okay, so Shenton argued the belief that no one has provided proof that the world is not flat. What would you say to that?
I would say there is so much proof, especially by 2004, not just from the U.S. space missions, from all the space missions which show round planets in the universe.
Exactly. It just doesn't make sense. And yet, with that said, he was adamant in his beliefs. He continued on, and he reformed and relaunched the official society in 2009. And guess who the first official member of the Flat Earth Society was?
Himself.
I mean, aside from himself.
The previous person.
No. Someone very famous.
Yeah?
A musician.
Oh, I was going to say Shia LaBeouf. I don't know. Who is it?
Thomas Dolby.
Why?
Yeah, the musician who is best known for She Blinded Me with Science. He became the first to join the newly reconvened society. Now, with that said, we don't actually know that Thomas Dolby believes that the Earth is flat, because this is part of what's been happening with the modern flat Earth movement. there's a lot of instances in which people join these groups or share information online, but they're intentionally just trying to antagonize or, as you mentioned, troll people. So by just doing this, it could just be Thomas Dolby ironically joining this group, not necessarily actually believing in their system of cosmology. But regardless, I found that to be a pretty interesting fact.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically the society has increased membership over a little bit of time. Some agree that the Earth is disc-shaped. Some are convinced that the Earth is various other shapes, like a diamond shape. So there's a lot of, contention within this belief system itself. In fact, there's members of the Flat Earth Society and other Flat Earth advocate groups that claim NASA and other government agencies are conspiring to fabricate evidence that the Earth is spherical, while there are other believers who claim the Flat Earth Society is itself perpetuated as a group, but it's actually run by some sort of nefarious government organization to discredit the actual advocates of the Flat Earth theory.
That gives me a headache, just that thought there.
It's like an inception of Flat Earth. That's a flatception.
Wow.
It gets into some very heavy conspiracy theory elements, but basically to contend with the idea that there's all this photographic and scientific evidence showing the world as a globe, the main argument and the crux of the argument now is it's a conspiracy. People are trying to suppress the truth. The truth is the Earth is flat, and this is all just being hidden from people.
There's way too much evidence to wait, not just from North America, everywhere.
And it brings up a question, why? I mean, I think when we get into information about proving the Earth is not flat, we do have to ask, what would be the point of withholding this information from the public?
There is no point.
Even if, let's say theoretically, just going on a thought experiment, that this was some sort of suppression of religious-based thought to supplant religion with science, to what end would this affect that? There would be other means to create this supplanting. And as we've already said, the Bible itself gives no textual evidence saying that the Earth was flat in any of its books.
Right. So, I don't know.
It's mind-boggling, and yet, there are ardent believers, not many. According to a poll that was conducted by the Public Policy Polling Organization, it found that only 1% of Americans, as of 2017, believed the Earth was flat. An additional 6% said they weren't sure, but only 1%.
Oh, okay.
So a pretty low number.
That's good.
We did already talk about the fact that a lot of this information is disseminated online, and when it's disseminated online, people will be reactionary. They'll respond by emotion rather than actually trying to scrutinize information.
You need to check your sources.
You do.
Where's this information coming from?
This is interesting, and I think this explains why the beliefs are growing. In a 2018 article from the Colorado Sun on a Flat Earth convention in Denver, the reporter found that many attendees actually believed in a whole suite of conspiracy theories, such as that all politicians are actors and that powerful shadowy forces control the world. So this isn't isolated. There is a tendency for flat Earth believers to actually believe in a range of conspiracy theories, that the truth is being withheld from them, which makes sense that they would also gravitate towards a belief system like this, right?
Right, yeah.
There is also something said by Dr. Joe Pierre. He's a professor of psychology at UCLA, and he blamed the Dunning-Kruger effect for the rise of flat Earth beliefs. Do you know what this effect is?
No.
In a nutshell, the Dunning-Kruger effect occurs when people who know very little think of themselves as experts.
Oh, they did their own research.
Exactly. And rather than allow themselves to be challenged, they would rather just look for things that basically support their intelligence. There is a great documentary I do encourage you to watch. Anyone out there who has an opportunity, please check out the 2018 documentary Behind the Curve. This is a documentary that follows prominent flat Earth advocates, including Patricia Steele. Now, in a quote from this movie, she admitted that she wouldn't even believe an event like the Boston Marathon bombing took place unless she had her own leg blown off.
That makes no sense.
It makes no sense, and yet she's using this to define her beliefs, saying she will not believe the Earth is round until she actually sees it herself. A similar viewpoint was given by another person featured in this documentary called Mark Sargent. With him, Sargent maintains a counterfactual belief system that the Earth is flat, even though he's obviously performing confirmation bias, where he's cherry-picking data that supports his viewpoint and ignoring everything else. Anything he can explain or that would challenge him in this documentary, he points towards a global conspiracy as the answer for these contradictions.
When there's no answer, that's what they tend to say, right?
Exactly. And then some of the evidence they give is just not factually valid in any capacity. This person I mentioned, Mark Sargent, in this documentary, he claimed to have watched flightaware.com, which is this website you can go to. He checked it for a long time to see if any flights had traveled between continents in the southern hemisphere, which in his disk model would be much further apart than they are on a globe model. So basically his way of saying this is proof that there's a conspiracy that the Earth is a disk, it's not a globe. Now, in response to this, Caltech astrophysicist Hannelore Gerling Dunsmore went to the site and immediately found flights that contradicted his claims. So it just took a minute to do. We do see the reasons why people believe in this. There's a bit of a danger in believing in these systems too, because I think this... What do you think the danger is in people who just ardently believe in the flat Earth theory?
It's not based in anything with fact. It's just stuff people are saying. And you have to be sure of things. So if you are concerned, you should look into it in the proper places, not just in places that support your claims.
Because what do you run the risk of if you do that?
Maybe perpetuating this even further,
Mm-hmm.
causing more people to get more paranoid and things like that, which is for no reason.
Exactly. And I think the main thing to look at are the conspiracy theories here. You know what? I will take anything with a grain of salt, and I will objectively look into anything. But when it comes to certain conspiracy theories, they're so outlandish. The main thing to keep in mind is that people believe these because they want to believe, because it justifies a certain worldview. Maybe that things are hard for them, not because of mistakes they've made or circumstances, but because there's some conspiracy being perpetuated against them. And the flat Earth theory, I think, feeds that delusion. That's why I think it's actually dangerous. In addition to just really observing what happened, have we actually talked about proof that the Earth is a sphere? Because I think plenty of flat earthers would say nothing you've mentioned actually proves the Earth is round. I want to give you some proof that the Earth is round.
Okay.
And this is beyond photographic evidence, which there's plenty of. There's satellite images. There are all sorts of other things. But basically, there are so many types of empirical evidence to show that the Earth is round that there is basically an embarrassment of wealth of information out there. We can look at the spherical shape of the Earth, how it causes certain effects and phenomena. For example, the visibility of distant objects on the Earth's surface, lunar eclipses, the appearance of the moon, observations of the sky from altitudes. There's just a lot of information showing that the Earth is round, but even beyond that, you have to look at stuff like modern GPS technology that requires satellites to orbit the Earth in order to work. That can't work on a disk.
No.
Like, that shows that the Earth is a globe. Beyond that, a flat Earth would not allow for gravity.
That's true.
Yeah, so on a spherical Earth, gravity tugs equally at objects all over the globe, no matter where they're positioned. A flat Earth would have no gravity at all, and as a solid disk like Earth, it would not be possible under the conditions of gravity because it would not be contained within those equal points of distribution of the pole of gravity. It just doesn't make sense. And with no gravity, flat Earth would not be able to hold onto the layer of gases in the atmosphere. Earth's skies would turn black because light emitted from the sun would no longer scatter as it enters Earth's atmosphere, and it would paint the skies a different color, not the familiar blue that we see today. There's also other things relating to the magnetosphere, which basically directs basically the magnetic fields of the Earth. That has to do with the rotation of a globe-shaped Earth. But, in the end, there's just so much evidence to go on. If anyone says there's no evidence that the Earth is round, they're wrong, and
They're not looking in the right places.
they're not looking in the right places. Now, this is tricky because the one thing to consider is what happens if you do encounter someone like this in your life? What happens if you have someone who's adamant and they're trying to defend this viewpoint? Do you just let them go, having this belief, or do you confront them on it? What's your take on that, Dave?
I don't know. Depends who it is.
It does depend because it could be a family member, it could be a stranger. There are a couple books I would encourage people to check out. These are all available at Windsor Public Library. One of them is called How to Talk to a Science Denier, Conversations with Flat Earthers, Climate Deniers, and Others Who Defy Reason by Lee C. McIntyre. This book gives a lot of information, how to share facts and information and strategies for working with people who just seem to be science deniers. There's also Off the Edge, Flat Earthers, Conspiracy Culture, and Why People Will Believe Anything by Kelly Wheel. I also want to recommend an article from livescience.com, 8 Ways Life Would Get Weird on a Flat Earth by Daisy Dobrojevic. And of course, I did mention that original documentary, Behind the Curve. Unfortunately, it's not available at Windsor Public Library because it's belonging exclusively to a particularly famous streaming site. But anyway, if you do have a chance to check it out, we do encourage you to do that. So with all that said, Dave, do you feel like you're going to walk off the edge of the Earth anytime soon?
No.
No? Okay. Well, you seem like you have something you want to ask me.
I have a random Dave fact.
Woohoo! I miss these facts. Dave, give me your random fact.
So my question is,
Okay.
to you
Yes.
and anyone, the oldest surviving globe, when was that created? What year?
Oh, I'm not going
The
to
one that's still in existence.
I'm not going to say it's the Earth, isn't it?
Globe of the Earth, yes.
Oh no, I meant like the Earth itself, right?
No, I mean like scale models.
Okay.
That's what this is about.
I'm going to say can I go by century?
Yeah.
I'm going to say 17th century.
Okay. The oldest globe that survives to this day was made by German geographer Martin Behaim in 1492,
Oh wow.
just before Christopher Columbus sailed to the New World. This globe leaves out North America, South America, Australia, and Antarctica. Now this was
mainly water.
1492, okay? But fun fact, this globe is called the Erdäpfel, which means earth apple.
Oh.
And it is so valuable that authorities in Germany keep it at a secret location to prevent its damage or theft. Erdäpfel, which I'm probably mispronouncing, Erdapfel, is now a German word for potato.
Oh, I love that.
So, at the time that this was made, that he made his globe, potatoes were known in Europe. So, potatoes are native to North and South America, which hadn't been discovered by Europeans yet.
Which is why we have the French word pomme de terre.
That's one hot potato of a fact.
Wow, Dave, that was a sizzling, saucy story. With that said, folks, if you have anything you would want us to explore on the show, please send us an email to askalibrarian@windsorpubliclibrary.com with the subject line, fiction or nonfiction. Your question could appear on a future episode.
I should mention,
Oh, yes.
sorry to cut you off, that I got that information from nationalgeographic.org. There's a very large article about the history of the first globe that was made, like scale globe.
That's good. The first globe that was made was the Earth, right?
Right.
Itself, okay.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, this has been Fiction
Or nonfiction.